Number 249 starts alongside, having been second fastest in qualifying yesterday. He leads the Group B karts as the karts head out onto the circuit now. Jack Constable will start this race third, with Josh Price starting in fourth. They're in karts 257 and 224 respectively. On row 3 then, Ed Brand, the highest placed driver from last year's Rotax Euro Challenge in the 205 kart, fifth in last year's series. Connor Jupp, number 231, the International Open winner at the end of last season, starts alongside him in sixth place. He's in kart 231. On row 4 then, Josh White, number 225, back to karting, which is good to see after a little time away. Coming back and doing one race at the end of last year. Ralph Aron, number 259, starts in 8th place alongside him. Completing the top 10, we've got Yarrow Deckers and Luke Knott. On row 6, we've got Mark Gonzalez and Eva Benes, who it'll be interesting to see how she goes here, because she went really well in practice, didn't quite hook it up in qualifying, and might come forward here in this race. Row 7, Lars Lambrell, winner of the Italian round of the Euro Challenge last year in juniors. Bastien Leguay is alongside. On row 8, Philip Volstead and Konstantin Scholl. Row 9 is Remo Rahula and Alessandro Trombelli. On row 10, Matthias Hobart and Corentin Collignon. Row 11 is Tom Meyer and Abdullah Al-Rahawi. He will not be pleased that it's raining, as he told me yesterday when I spoke to him. Abdullah, coming from Oman, doesn't have a great deal of experience of driving in wet conditions. On row 12, Julien Falchero and Mark Moore. And the final row, row 13, from Japan, Ippai Yamamoto and Petra Shikokhnin in kart 233. So the karts head off onto a second outlap here. Weaving around, you can see them weaving around there from the start line gantry camera, just to try and generate a bit of heat in the tyres. So basically, Ken, what these guys are going to have are wet tyres and a dry setup, because they probably won't have had time to make any changes to the chassis setups or the gearing of the karts, will they?
No, Jill noticed when the first hint of rain came that when these guys first came into Parc Fermé, they had elected to bring 2 sets of tyres, and at a relatively early stage it was declared a wet race, but all the time that was available was to put those wets on. So you're absolutely right, they're driving hybrids to some degree, and they're going to be racing on a hybrid track because it's very sticky at the moment, as we've seen. But in a 9-lap race with a grid of this size, there are 26 of them out there, there will be little drying lines. So it's very much now, how is your overall kart handling capability?
Yeah, it might not be a bad way to go, actually. If it had carried on raining, they wouldn't have had an ideal setup, because the kart set up for the dry would have been bogging down a bit with not enough gearing on the sprockets to get them out of the corners. They'd have needed a bit more acceleration, but actually there's a chance that this track could not necessarily dry by the end of the race, but get drier, get less wet, become a damp circuit in between now and the end of this 9-lap race. Quite a lot of puddles, though. It was a pretty heavy cloud burst, so it's going to be a learning curve here. These guys haven't been around in the wet since, what, Thursday afternoon. It was dry completely yesterday. But at least most of them have had plenty of time in the wet here leading up to this event. So in pole position, Joseph Riley, number 250, with the orange and blue helmets, but they're going to be sent back around again. They got the nod pretty early on. Thomas Liner, the start line official, knowing that really they weren't quite bunched up enough there, and there was a nod from Joseph Riley as he acknowledged that he would have to take them round again. So he's there with, they've all got their dry suits on as well. Nobody's had a chance to put wet suits on, I don't think, have they? So they're going to get absolutely sodden with no protective layer of clothing around their race suits, Ken. And very cold hands. Some of them have been prepared and got wetsuits on. Joseph Riley has not, though. But hopefully, from his point of view, he's not going to get too much spray being at the front, is he?
A greater incentive to jump out into the lead and stay there, hey?
That will be an issue as well, the spray. If you're in the middle of that pack and you've got the spray being flung up at you from the tyres of those karts ahead of you, it can be a little bit like driving through a jet wash, because you just get, your visor gets covered in spray, a cloud of spray, and you can't really see through it. You just sort of use your knowledge, your memory of the circuit, and try and make out the shapes of the karts in front of you. But it can be really tricky. So, as Ken said, a good incentive to be at the front there. So leading the round is Joseph Riley, fastest in qualifying yesterday. His time yesterday, 64.919. The only driver so far in the competitive part of this week to get into the 64s. Dries van Thur got close to him, though, with a 65.053, and was very, very happy indeed with second place, having really stepped up since moving up to the seniors from juniors, which he competed in last year. Now, it looks like they're pretty well bunched up then as they make their way out of the hairpin there at turn 12, into the left-hander at turn 13, and then the final corner turn 14 to lead them onto the start finish straight. Right, should be underway this time, all being well. It's going to be a 9-lap race. Joseph Riley and Dries van Teur on the front row of the grid. Jack Constable trying to tuck him behind in third place, but they're not going to go around this time. Looked better bunched up, didn't it? But maybe it's to do with the acceleration this time. I don't think they're all aware, actually. Oh, no, loads of them have gone off. So it's been declared a full stop. Loads of them have gone off the road from the middle of the pack. And certainly 1 or 2 others at the front of the pack. Not realising that it's been sent round again. So we've got them all been bunched up, sent around. Warning boards coming out for 1 or 2 drivers as well. Mark Gonzalez getting a technical disqualification flagged by the looks of the electronic board. So he's got something wrong with his kart. And they're going to ask him to leave the circuit by the looks of things. There's some slight confusion here, because I was told they're going to send them around again. It still looks to me like they're at racing pace here, and they're not exactly bunching it up yet. Joseph Riley is leading them down into the hairpin then. Ed Brand is currently behind him in second place. And the message that we got was that it was a full start. But they look like they're running pretty hard at the moment to me. So whether that has been changed now, the drivers haven't got the message, I'm not sure. But Ed Brand sliding wide in second place has got about 4 or 5 kart lengths back already to the race leader, Joseph Riley. As far as we can tell, this is definitely underway now. So through they come, the left-hander at turn 13, into the right at turn 14. Everybody that went off at turn 1, I think, has got going again. Not all of them came to a halt. Brand goes through in second place. In third position then, we've got Luke Knott, number 244, who's come up from 10th on the grid. So great start from Luke Knott to go from 10th up to third. And fourth at the end of the first lap is Dries van Teur. Ralph Aron has moved up to 5th. Lars Lamberel has moved up to 6th place from 13th on the grid, so he's made a cracking start as well. Jack Constable slipped back to 7th. Josh Price 8th. Jarro Dekkers up to 9th. Josh White has moved up into the top 10. Philip Volstedt 11th. 12th at the end of the first lap. Connor Jupp was one that's fallen back. He's gone from the 3rd row of the grid down to 12th position. Remo Rahul at 13th makes progress. Tom Meyer 14th. Ever Benes 15th at the end of that first lap. There'll be 1 or 2 at the back that have lost lots of places because there was that sort of pile up in the middle of the field, which may be part of the reason why Lars Lamberel, Kent, was able to make up so many places up into the top 6.
Well, it's been a really untidy start to this one, hasn't it? We knew that the conditions would present a real difficulty to the drivers, and I have to say it's been worse than I anticipated, and in many ways we've almost got a non-race. However, these numbers are going to count when it's looking at the total aggregate scores that will determine who makes the cut, who doesn't, who's going to be starting well up to the front in the pre-final, who's going to be going through to the second chance heat. I did think that the race had even been aborted again when I saw the flashing amber light, but that wasn't the case. That is the completion of lap 2. Joseph Riley's lead over Ed Brand is 1.79 seconds, but as you look on the circuit, it's a little bit of a misread almost, because the pace at which they're going, the best time 1 minute 27s, 1:27.1 for Joseph Riley. Very difficult for us to read in terms of where you're getting moves, and the only potential passings that we've seen, I think, are coming from quite bad errors by the guy in front, aren't they? It's very, very hard to carve out an opportunity. However, at speed, coming down off that fastest part, down the sharpest part of the grade, Joseph Riley's gone well, and that was nice, judicious braking by the race leader. Not looking round, got nobody near him, just trying to drive his own race. A 1:27 lap, 87 seconds isn't something to write home about, but driving your car safely on the tarmac in these conditions is. Now, 7th and 8th positions, Josh Price and Jack Constable was that, having a little look at a potential trading of places. But actually now, already, Chris, there is that hint of that drying or drier line, isn't there? And Joseph Riley, not just saying this because he's in the front, but looks to put the hammer down and get some pace. Be interesting to see the timing on this one. You've just seen something.
Yeah, change for 4th place going into turn 13 as Lars Lamberel gets ahead of Dries van Teur. We just saw on screen there somebody coming to grief at one of the hairpins. There's going to be a change further back. Is just as well outside the top 6. 2 karts running nose to tail as Josh Price and Ralph Aron get pretty close together. Josh has got up into 6th place at the start of that lap. So Joseph Riley leads. Ed Brand is 2nd. Luke Knott still, after that fantastic start, in 3rd place. He started 10th. Lars Lamberel set the fastest first sector on the last lap, and then at the end of the lap he managed to move ahead of Dries van Teuren up into 4th place. So Lars Lamberel has come from 13th on the grid now, up into 4th position. Maybe the battle to watch here, I think, keep one eye on how the gap develops between 3rd and 4th, because Lars is looking pretty quick there in 4th place and has certainly pulled away from Dries van Teuren. The other battle to watch will be for that 5th place now, because Dries van Teuren has fallen away, and 5th, 6th and 7th I think are bunching up. And the driver catching him up is Josh Price. You can't miss Josh. He has managed to get a wetsuit on, but it's a clear wetsuit. You can still see his red and white suit beneath it. He's got the pink and blue helmet. And Josh Price, who went so well here at Campos last year until we got to the finals, and he got punted out of the way, having qualified on pole position. And it was the same at Genk, where he qualified on pole for the pre-final, and they got punted off, actually by Lars Lamberel, wasn't it, who caused, not directly running into him, but caused a chain reaction into the hairpin at Genk on the first lap, and ended up getting a tail wagging for it. And then it ended up concertinaing up, and everybody went into the back of the man at the front, which was Josh Price. So Josh coming through now. Somebody's getting a black flag now, and it's
Mark Gonzalez, Chris, and he had a mechanical defects flag, ignored that, and having ignored that, that has now been converted to a black flag and a visit to the stewards.
That's right. You can see the track not throwing up too much spray now as you watch the pictures there, as they come up through the left-hander at turn 3 and 4, into the right at turn 5, at the top of the hill through turn 6 there they come. This camera overlooking the highest point of the circuit. And how about the lap times now? 127.2 for Joseph Riley. Slightly slower by a few hundredths was Ed Brand with a 127.2. A 127.2 for Luke Knott. A 126.7 though for Lars Lamberel in 4th place. So Lars is the quickest driver in the group at the head of the field. He's in the 222 kart. In this 9-lap race, he's running in 4th position. And yes, he is beginning to close the gap now. That track is drying out very, very quickly indeed. And they've all got the wet tyres on. It's still greasy, but the lap times are going to get quicker and quicker all the time now. But the battle to watch here is for 3rd place between Luke Knott, the bright green, yellow and red helmet, and the red trim on his kart, and in the blue colour scheme, number 222, flying after him is Lars Lamberel. And now that the track's drying up a bit, there's a move there, because running wide is Luke Knott going through turn 13. It's come earlier than we expected, and through goes Lars Lamberel, but Luke Knott is right on his tail now, looking to go back around the outside of him into turn 1, but he can't do that. He runs very wide through the first corner and gives half a sniff to Dries van Teuren, but Dries wasn't close enough to find a way through. So up to 3rd place goes Lars Lamberel. Luke Knott is 4th. Dries van Teuren there in 5th, with Josh Price 6th.
When we've said previously about guys going from the transition from juniors to seniors, Lars Lamberel has shown himself in tremendous light there, Chris. He's gone from juniors to seniors on a very, very difficult racing surface, and has raced there very much within a controlled environment in what ought to be a little bit of a non-control situation. I was impressed with that. Also, Luke Knott is definitely catching the eye. We know what Joseph Riley and Ed Brand are capable of, but these young lads, particularly Lars Lamberel in that last moment of your commentary piece, I was very impressed. That was a nice measured piece of driving in difficult conditions. Well into the second half of the race, 4 remaining, including the one they're on.
The circuit almost looks bone dry on the way down into the hairpin at turn 10, but it looked like this yesterday morning. It looked like the track was dry, and actually it was still very greasy, and the curbs were still very slippery, so it's certainly still going to be providing a challenge for these drivers. What a drive this is though by Joseph Riley. Looks like he's on a pair of rails, so smooth. Ed Brand equally is going well, but just falling away now, and the gap's out to 2 seconds. So Joseph Riley leads, Ed Brand in 2nd place. Lars Lamberel, as we said, is up to 3rd. He's pulling away now from Luke Knott, but Luke in turn has pulled away on this lap from Dries van Teuren, the driver in 5th place. Josh Price is 6th, Ralph Aron is 7th. Connor Jupp has come back up the order a bit to 8th place. Yarrow Decker's 9th. Jack Constable is in 10th position as it stands. Abdullah Al-Rahawi is making a bit of progress. He's up to 18th place now after struggling a bit at the start of the race. So Abdullah, who hasn't got too much experience of wet conditions, as we said.
You said he'd not got too much experience of driving in wet conditions. I thought when you said he's not got too much experience of walking in wet conditions.
Yeah, it's true. But he's doing all right. He's holding his own, and he'll Well, he's had some practice this week at driving in the wet anyway.
Oh,
so.
and there's an illustration of the difficulties.
Oh, Luke Knott spun.
Yeah, Luke Knott just taking a 360 under what appeared to be no sort of pressure and throwing away half a dozen well, not quite half a dozen. He's thrown away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places there.
Yeah, he's going to rejoin in front of Jack Constable, so I think he's going to be in 9th place, I reckon, when he comes back in front of the commentary box. So, yeah, that's the corner that looks dry to the eye, but as I say, still very greasy for him. Through they come then with 2 laps to go. Big gap there you can see from 2nd to 3rd. Lars Lambrell in 3rd place. Up to 4th position then is Dries van Teur. Josh Price moves up to 5th. Ralph Aron up to 6th. Connor Jupp up to 7th. Jarro Dekkers up to 8th. And yes, Luke Knott with that spin, as you saw there at the hairpin at turn 10, down to 9th place. Jack Constable right behind him now in 10th position. They climb up the hill, and good scrap that is actually for 9th place. And Constable has a look up the inside on the way into turn 4. They go wheel to wheel, but Luke Knott fends him off, and Jack Constable ends up running wide, and it allows the Estonian Remo Rahula to get ahead. So Constable tried to get 9th place. In the end, he slips back to 11th position on the run up to turn 6. They settle down now. Already down at turn 10, though, is Joseph Riley. Is Ed Brand starting to catch him? I think, yes, he was slightly quicker on the last lap by a few hundreds.
Yeah, and the visual suggests so, Chris.
And quicker than both of them, Ken, is Lars Lambrell in 3rd place. The leaders did a 1:26.2. Lars in 3rd place on the last lap, 1:25.4, with the fastest sector times of the race in sectors 1 and 3. So Lars Lambrell, watch the man in 3rd. There he is in the blue suit, going through your camera shot, through the hairpin. At turn 12, he's catching Ed Brand in 2nd place, and he's still got a lap and a half to do it now, hasn't he? Through they come, 2 laps to go, actually, as they come through.
Coming up to 1 to go, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. 1 lap to go. It changes on screen now. Through they go into turn 1, and again on that lap, very quick time from Lars Lambrell, but Ed Brand responded at the end of the lap with the quickest personal 3rd sector that he's had in the race. So Ed Brand got a shift on in that 3rd sector, and has done a 1:25.9 now, and is a bit quicker than the race leader. So Eddie's being spurred on by Lars, and both of them catching the leader, Ken. But
yeah, I think so. I think Ed would have driven a conservative race to come home safely 2nd, but he's not got that luxury. Oh, and a little bit 4-wheel drift there. But it's late in the race, and the sun comes out, Chris.
Yeah, coming down now, half a lap or so to go. To 14th place as it dries out, Abdullah Al-Rahawi now. So the Omani having a really good run here in the second half of the race under tricky conditions. So just 5 corners to go now, coming out through the right-hander and down towards this fast section at the back of the circuit, coming out of turn 11, down the back straights, and you'll see them again through this kink flat out, and you'll see them coming into the hairpin at turn 12. And Ken, it looks like another fine performance this from Joseph Riley. It looks like he's going to take the flag.
Yeah, I mean, you can say he was on pole position, he got out in front, as we said, but you've got to do it, you've got to drive it, haven't you? And he has done particularly well, and there is the checkered flag, and Joseph Riley's return to racing with RGMMC is a winning one. Ed Brand, once again, he's going to have to wear that little nearly man question mark tag, but at the moment it's only heat 1 for the seniors in this particular grouping. There's plenty to come. Just looking a little bit further down, I did say how much I admired Lars Lambrell. Connor Jupp caught my eye late on. Luke Knott was unfortunate. We called the situation where he lost those places. And Remo Rahula of Estonia, had my eye on him at one point. And certainly when Jack Constable had the little coming together, Remo was able to say, well, look, if you give me half a chance, I'll take it. Quite impressed with him. Not really seen Remo Rahula race previously. The name vaguely rings a bell, but I'm sure this is his debut in RGMMC.
So, very well driven by everybody there. The only incident was at the start, really, wasn't it? But there's a bit of confusion as to whether it was the start or not. And then about 7 or 8 carts went off at the first corner in the middle of the pad. But given the conditions, great. So a thumbs up there on the slowing down lap from Joseph Riley to Ed Brand, 2 very experienced British competitors. Bit of a star in that race as well was Lars Lambrell, wasn't he? Up to 3rd position for Dan Holland Racing. There on screen, RGMMC TV live stream, you'll see the results for race 4 then, and Joseph Riley winning by a slightly reduced margin in the end, just under 1.5 seconds. He was more than 2 seconds clear for much of the race. Ed Brand second, Lars Lambrell through to third. Dries van Teur, I think we were pretty satisfied with that fourth place. Ralph Aron likewise in his senior debut at this level in terms of a race in fifth. Jaro Dekkers has been very consistent this weekend for Team TKP, and he's up there in sixth. It was a bad start for Connor Jupp, but he recovered well to seventh. Luke Knott in eighth place, so he did pick up a place at the end of that race to get back up the order, and that was because Josh Price disappeared down the order, wasn't it, at the end of the race? So Luke Knott 8th, Remo Rahula 9th, Jack Constable 10th. Those three had a good little battle at one point. Corentin Collignon was 11th, Bastien Leguay 12th, Josh White, Abdullah Arouahawi, Alessandro Trombelli completing the top 15. Tom Meyer was 16th, Konstantin Scholl was 17th, and Philip Volstedt in 18th place. 19th, Julien Falchero. 20th, Mark Moore. Ippei Yamamoto was 21st. Ever Benes will be a bit disappointed with 22nd. Josh Price disappeared from the race with a couple of laps to go. Didn't see what happened there, but Josh, who was running in 6th place, down to 23rd in the end. That was a real shame for him. His luckless streak at this circuit continues. 24th was Mark Gonzalez, and he didn't finish the race either, and not making